The road to January 6th didn't begin that morning. It was paved with weeks of escalating rhetoric and challenges to the 2020 election results. Washington was a powder keg waiting for a spark. Dawn broke over the Capitol on January 6, 2021. Barricades were erected, but few security officials anticipated the sheer size and intensity of the crowds that were descending on the city. By 10 a.m., the ellipse was overflowing. Tens of thousands of supporters, convinced the election was stolen, gathered to hear the president speak. The mood was defiant. Speakers took the stage, amplifying the anger. The crowd was told that the country was at stake. The message was clear: fight like hell, or you won't have a country anymore. Around 1 p.m., the massive crowd began moving down Pennsylvania Avenue. A sea of people flowed towards the seat of the legislative branch, where the electoral votes were being counted. As the vanguard of the crowd arrived at the Capitol perimeter, the mismatch was immediate. A thin line of Capitol police officers stood against a tidal wave of thousands. Barricades meant to keep order were turned into weapons. The fence line collapsed. The mob surged forward, occupying the inaugural stands and the steps of the Capitol. The peaceful protest had dissolved into a riot. Police were assaulted with flagpoles, chemical sprays, and shields. The scene on the West Front was a medieval battle. At approximately 2:13 p.m., the building was breached. Windows were smashed, and the first rioters climbed through, opening doors for the masses behind them. Chaos erupted inside. The halls of Congress, usually silent and reverent, echoed with the sounds of a mob. Security rushed to lock down the chambers. Vice President Pence was rushed from the Senate floor. The certification was halted mid-sentence. Lawmakers grabbed gas masks as tear gas was deployed in the rotunda. Rioters broke into offices, including that of Speaker Nancy Pelosi. They sat at desks, rifled through documents, and took selfies, documenting their own crimes. For hours, outnumbered police officers fought specifically brutal battles in tight tunnels. And for hours, the National Guard did not arrive. The delay was agonizing. Across America and the world, millions watched live feeds in disbelief. The symbol of American democracy was under occupation. It seemed the transfer of power was in peril. Finally, in the late afternoon, the order was given. The National Guard and heavy police reinforcements moved in to retake the complex, clearing it floor by floor. Using flashbangs and tactical formations, security forces pushed the mob away from the building. By 6 p.m., the Capitol was declared secure. The violence left physical scars, shattered glass, broken furniture, and debris littered the historic floors. But the deeper damage was to the nation's psyche. Yet democracy prevailed. Lawmakers returned to the shattered building that same night. They were determined to finish the job the Constitution required of them. In the early hours of January 7th, the electoral votes were certified. The peaceful transfer of power, though threatened, was ultimately preserved. January 6th stands as a somber chapter in history, a reminder that democracy is fragile and must be defended by each generation. In the aftermath, the Department of Justice launched the most extensive investigation in its history, charging hundreds of individuals for their roles in the attack. A congressional committee was formed to investigate the causes, holding public hearings that revealed the depth of the planning and the pressure campaigns. The images of that day remain burned into the collective memory, a symbol of democracy under siege, a sight many thought impossible. It sparked a nationwide debate about election security, misinformation, and the fragility of democratic institutions. Beyond the politics, there was a human cost. Law enforcement officers were injured, lives were lost, and a sense of safety was shattered. Today, the Capitol stands repaired, but the invisible cracks in the foundation of public trust have taken much longer to heal. The Constitution was tested, it held, but its strength relies not on paper, but on the people who swear to protect it. Justice requires vigilance. The events of January 6th serve as a stark warning against complacency. This was a day that shook the Republic to its core, a dark chapter, but one that must be remembered to ensure it is never repeated. In the end, the transfer of power continued, democracy survived, and the work of a more perfect union goes on.